This will be a great session because today we are talking about, what happened in 2025. What were some of the biggest things that happened in the aviation industry and also in marketing? And we all know the technology is changing all the time in marketing, and also the market and market forces and where money goes and comes and all of those things is influenced pretty heavily by a lot of different things. So those are the things we're going to be talking about: is what's changed and what we are recommending as a company going forward into 2026. So does anybody remember what our biggest recommendations were in 2025? If anybody asked us, we had basically two big social media channels that we always recommended.
LinkedIn and YouTube and video marketing.
There you go. Yep. LinkedIn and YouTube were the channels. Long form content and short form video were the content that we would put into those channels. And that some of that is the same. Some of that is going to change just a little bit because of things that have changed in the marketplace and also in the technology. So, all right, let's dive in, and we're going to go around the room, and everybody will have an opportunity to contribute what you learned in 2025 about aviation and marketing, and also what you plan to do differently in 2026, if there's anything. So the biggest things that happened in the aviation industry, if we were to boil it down, it would be three big words. That's one thing that I learned in a course that I'm taking, is almost everything we communicate works better if we do it in three factors. And there's just some trick in the human mind that absorbs three things much better than any other number. So the three things that happen, we'll call it safety, governance, and AI and automation. And that's across the aviation industry. There were a bunch of safety events. And if you look at it, statistically speaking, it really wasn't any more dangerous than any other year, really. But all of the events are a lot more heavily publicized. There's a lot more video about every single event. And that makes people nervous, when they're seeing planes crash and, incidents and other things happen. There's a visceral reaction that people have when they see something like that on their screen. And then for every incident, there's a dozen videos now because there's cameras everywhere. So it's not any more dangerous than it used to be, and it's certainly not as dangerous as driving or any other crazy thing that we do every day. But still, there's the perception that safety has become a bigger deal than it was before. The second thing I think that's been a real big factor this year is governance. There were a bunch of, I think everybody kind of came to the abrupt realization of how dependent we are on towers, control towers, FAA, um, controllers, other folks like that are not necessarily as stable as we always thought they were. So a lot of people found that, the airports that they were flying into had some differences, different policies and procedures, things like that.
You have
So
to add in,
yeah.
everybody always says ATC is control towers,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a thing called ARTC, which is Air Route Traffic Control Centers,
Mm-hmm.
that connects all your towers.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. So there's a lot more people sitting in offices than there are sitting in control towers, but the perception still is the control towers are out, when the TSA or when the ATC isn't working. So, that's kind of a big deal in the US, and the US is still our biggest market. So that was a thing. Whether that was pro or con, business aviation, you can say that a lot of traffic from the airlines has yet another reason to fly privately, because GA aircraft, business aviation aircraft have a lot more options for flying into uncontrolled airports. We can always just use the radio and talk to each other. The rules change, but we have a lot more flexibility than the airlines do when governance isn't what we want it to be.
Well, and what's interesting as well, the lovely TSA organization
Okay.
has opted to leave several regional airports, and they've given timelines. And what that means is no commercial airliners will fly in there.
Hmm.
And the reason they're leaving actually is because airliners have gone in there, have gone out of business, or cut that out of their routing.
Hmm.
So that's not good because one of the little known, and I'm sure Michael knows this, but one of the little known uh, statistics is that 41% of all air traffic in this country starts in a regional airport.
Exactly. So, that was another of the big factors that was different in 2025 and will impact people's thinking when they're thinking about aviation going forward. And you guys, of course, need to know what those big factors are.
And one of the things that we aim to do is increase that statistic
Hmm.
to, 60, 40, 50, 60% or more of the traffic being regional, often bypassing the current hub, going
Exactly.
point again.
Exactly.
Right.
Bring back deregulation routes from the 1960s and 70s.
What a
Ooh.
concept. Yes.
Right. And I'm really looking forward to that, especially, living in a place where, of course, we have Salt Lake City International Airport near us, but a lot of the United States, especially, is nowhere near an airport. So, people have to drive for an hour or more to get to an airport. So that regional air mobility is going to become more important, I think, over the next year or so as that happens. So, governance, that's a factor into that, but there's lots of other reasons for that too. There's also efficiency and many other regions. So, Michael, just to let you know where we are, we're actually just talking about what happened in 2025. What were the big industry events that affect the way people think and what happens? And we boiled it down to three words: safety, governance, and AI and automation. So, um, AI and automation is pretty widespread across the industry, not just in marketing, but also in, you talk to Tim Bunnell, aviation insurance. Now, a lot of the underwriting decisions are influenced by AI and automation algorithms and other things. So, there's a lot that goes into, I think, almost every aspect of aviation, just like every other industry. Um, it may not be as big of what is the word? It was a really big hype factor in 2024, but in 2025, people actually started using it for a lot of different things. And, they're starting to see the impact of that. It used to be the question of, should we use AI? Should we use automation? Now it's a lot more a question of, is AI and automation, is this the best way to use it? Or should we be doing it a different way?
I would actually add a fourth. I think those are
Okay.
three good things that happened.
Mm.
From my perspective and the portion of the aviation industry that I'm intimately working with,
Mhm.
the hype over electric aviation and sustainability
Ah,
is imploding.
yes.
Now, in the mainstream media, to a certain extent, you began to there've always been a few, you can call them pundits, experts, whatever, but there are some very well-respected people within the industry who, from day one, have said, "Yeah, electric aviation ain't gonna fly."
Mhm.
And people didn't wanna listen.
Mhm.
And yet now over 25, that, um that portion of the industry has really grown, and you're now seeing many, many articles that are saying, "Yeah, this is nonsense. Here's the technology has improved, and that's great." We always wanna see technological improvement. So the fact that the electric technology is improving and there are electric aircraft that are moving towards certification, that's cool. That's positive. But to make electric a business decision, which actually has the possibility of being revenue positive,
Mm-hmm.
um, has not changed. Basically, people are realizing there is no business case for electric aviation today.
Mm-hmm.
That may change in the future, but it doesn't. There are too many things that don't work, including infrastructure and other things that people are backing away and saying, yeah, unless it's for a small drone and it's for a very short distance, electric has its place, but it doesn't have a place in general aviation, in commercial aviation. And so, it's still very experimental. We need to leave it that way. And I think it was last week, the FAA, maybe it was on Monday. Anyways, very recently, the FAA said that they are going to not release the safety certification basis for EV tolls.
Oh, I did
They
not hear that.
have, yeah, they pushed it back another 6 months, basically saying that they are learning from the current trials, those who are working towards certification. And they basically came back and said, yeah, we don't think we're ready to release the safety standards for these aircraft yet. We need some more study.
Yeah.
And so how can you bring an aircraft to commercial operation when you don't even have a safety regulatory basis for the aircraft until next summer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Excellent
for
point.
those that are following electric aviation, it's a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start looking at what's commercializable, it's great for companies like ours because we've said, all along that you have to have a migration strategy.
Yeah.
You don't just go from one tech to the next. You have a migration strategy. It starts with doing something that works today, works with the infrastructure today, works with the regulatory environment today, the business environment, the safety environment, and then you move forward. So there's a path through hybrid electric to eventual all electric when it's appropriate, but you have to have a migration path, and jumping straight to electric is not a migration path.
Agreed. Agreed. And if we had included a fourth bullet, it would have been sustainability on this
Yep.
on the slide. We actually considered doing that, but given the headlines about these other three factors, I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. That comes in a really strong number four, and I expect that it will be one of the top three when we do this presentation next year, because the economics are going to change. Sustainability will be seen differently.
Mhm.
I think the migration path is going to be a bigger factor. So a lot of that's going to be a thing next year. One of the factors that we consider in the top three. Um, Working with brokers and everybody else, we've seen that people are selling planes as fast as they can list them, especially some of the more popular jets. And, we were talking about this yesterday with some of our broker clients. Um, we don't have time to do a polished listing because it sells out from under us faster than we need to. So we don't really even need to do polished listings. They just get them out on their website and poof, it's gone. So I think that's going to continue into 2025 as well. Yeah, and of course, there's always going to be some weird airplanes like that Cessna 310 that just won't sell, or whatever. And so, those are ones that we can tell the story behind it, tell the use cases for it, do more targeting. There's a lot of things that we can do for those kinds of things. But we won't need to do that for every airplane because a lot of them are just selling without a ton of activity on our side. So then our job is branding and credibility for the firm, not necessarily selling the particular aircraft. So that I think is going to continue, which is great news for the brokers. When they can get listings, they have no problem selling them.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So what worked best in 2025? And of course, Adila, you're absolutely right. The LinkedIn and YouTube are things that we have been, those were our two big channels that we were pushing in 2025. And I think we were right to do that. But I think we are altering that just a little bit as video becomes so saturated in 2026. It's become so easy for people to produce video, really low quality video. I don't know if you've noticed your feed just getting saturated with AI slop, in terms of video and other things. So, we need to stand out and make sure that we are doing what we can. The other side of that, of course, as we're doing our discussion of trade shows or our discussion of what's going on in the industry, um, it doesn't cover as much of the sales cycle. Video doesn't cover as much of the sales cycle as email unless it's used in conjunction. So, that's why we're kind of putting that in. Email is number one for 2026. It's hard for me to say that. It's still, 2025 still rolls off my tongue. Um, LinkedIn, and I think we're going to be encouraging people to use their personal profiles more because personal profiles get, ideally, you probably know the statistics better than I do, but 3 or 4 times more engagement than the company pages, which does not mean we can't facilitate that by producing material for people's company pages that they can then share on their personal pages. And we're going to talk about, again, the top 3 in more detail, but I just wanted to share the rankings with you guys and see if you had any thoughts or ideas about this.
How did you come to that list? What's the basis for the ranking?
The basis for the ranking is we basically took data from a business to business marketing group that I'm part of. And because we don't really have enough statistical data from the aviation industry and from our 30 clients to make really educated decisions. So we kind of augmented that with some data from a business to business marketing group.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is business to business as opposed to like business to consumer.
Right.
It's not aviation. But again, it's there. Do we know where they got it? Was there from interviews or is there some, other metric that they used?
Right. It's actually the AMA or American Marketing Association. So it's US based business to business marketing data from business to business agencies. And then we also added our own data and altered the results when we thought that aviation had a difference because we had enough data to prove it, at least to John and me.
Yeah.
So it's entirely scientific, but actually their data was scientific, and then we changed a couple of things. The couple of things that we changed were, um, they ranked trade shows actually lower than we did here. Other than that, our data pretty much matched up with what they had.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
No, that's a good question, and we should display our work or show our work. We try to simplify, but sometimes we simplify too far, and we need to put a footer on the slide.
As our fundraising advisor says, you have a hip pocket slide that
Yes.
you pull out
Mhm.
for background information. Yeah.
Right.
I used to do those in PowerPoint years ago.
Yeah, your hidden slides.
I used to do them with an overhead projector and
Wow,
Yeah.
that was in the old days when you had to shuffle through and whoop it on the table pretty quick.
that's right. Well, let me grab that one, flip it up. Okay, back to the presentation.
There you go. Exactly. So, yeah, the reason that email has reached number one, that's the biggest change this year, is because our clients that are doing email are getting really, really good results from their email in terms of their entire marketing structure. And it's not really a prospecting tool as much as it is back of funnel kind of a tool. And we'll talk about that in more detail in just a minute. But were there any other surprises for you guys? I know we used to have YouTube was our number 3, or actually it was our number 2. It was LinkedIn, YouTube. Video is now number 7, but the thing is we're using video for these testimonials, we're using video on LinkedIn, we're using video in emails, so it's kind of not become its own thing, it's now a ingredient in each of these things, so, this is kind of channels and methods mixed together, um but, in terms of the actual outcome of what should we be doing, if we phrase it this way, I think people will understand it better, and I think we'll get better results.
Well, it's interesting that the low cost is
Mhm.
having the highest return.
Yeah, that is true, and, so email and LinkedIn, we almost can't do enough of, for our clients because I do think that those do have the biggest impact for the lowest amount of effort on our part and cost on their part and everything else. So, let's talk about email. Um, it can be used for prospecting, so I did leave this I grayed out everything that wasn't relevant, but this is the only one that covers the whole cycle. It can be used for prospecting. You can purchase lists or you can get lists from the FAA. You can send cold email if you do it very carefully so that we don't violate the Can Spam Act in the United States and the GBTA in Europe and, a bunch of other laws and rules. So, we have to be very careful to make sure that we are using the unsubscribe links and we're using something like MailChimp that has all of those features in it that keep us legal. Um, and also prospecting, what we like to do with this is do very small lists to begin with, very, very small, very, very targeted. So 10 at a time, 20 at a time, people who fit a very specific criteria, send them a very targeted email, that tells them why they should subscribe or why they should continue getting emails from us. And if we can make that case and do that sale, then it works really well for prospecting. Approaching, of course, personal emails work really, really well. Holding pattern, doing an email newsletter, keeping people in touch because they'll forget about whatever it is that we talked about a week after, you have a really great sales conversation. People forget about it a week later when they go on with their lives and have a million other priorities. So those holding patterns are really important. And when we're doing our scorecards for clients, this has become the number one area where we see red spots is interesting that that's red. Is those holding patterns. People are just dropping the ball somewhere between making that first approach and actually consummating a sale. So email's a really good way to do that. Sales, it's really, really great for that. Of course, referrals and testimonials. Doing a referral and testimonial campaign, we want to make sure that we have an email element in that. Cool. Thoughts about emails? I know, Adila, you've been working on a bunch of campaigns this year. Hopefully, we'll be doing a lot more of them for us.
Yes, I think email is also, you can directly approach your list and then you can see the statistics in the MailChimp. And I've been doing like it just like beginning to do the email marketing because I wanted to learn it because I know the importance of email marketing. So I think so we should be focusing on that this year and let's see how it goes.
Right. Another reason that, email hasn't been used as much in the past, and this is a tie-in with AI, um, it used to be a real pain in the neck to get a good list. Uh, you'd get a list from the FAA and you get a list from GLADA or another organization, and to scrub those against each other, you had to be like a Microsoft Excel wizard, and you had to be able to do all kinds of cool things, and you had to have a really big computer to even manage the data from an FAA list. But now you can just throw that into ChatGPT and it will scrub the list for you by any factors that you want. So, a lot of those things are a lot easier. And also, we can take customer email lists from, that they've been sending to and scrub those using some of the AI tools. And I think they're planning, what I'm hearing anyway, is that they're planning to build some AI tools into some of the email marketing systems like Constant Contact and Salesforce and Pardo and even MailChimp potentially at some point in the future so that you can sort and segment and do all those things more easily than we ever have before. Great. And Michael, I know you're working on some email journeys, so I think you're right on target with that, given what we're seeing in the market and with our other clients as well. All right. So LinkedIn works really, really well for prospecting, approaching, referrals, and testimonials. And there are specific ways that it's working better than others. It, of course, anything that we broadcast on the company's page is good. It shows that the company's alive. It shows that they're active. They're doing stuff. They are responding to industry events. They're doing those kinds of things. But what works even better are what we call founder or executive posts, where, especially if they are opinionated, where they're saying something about here's what's going on in the industry. We disagree because, so being contrarian, calling out a problem and trying to solve it, those kinds of things are the ones that have consistently performed the best across aviation, across our clients, and across business to business as well. Business to business used to be super boring and everybody was afraid to say anything. So, being a little bit different or being a little bit opinionated really has a huge advantage. So some of our clients, when they pick a fight in the industry and, like Erica with some of the things that she's doing that are kind of bucking the industry trends, with air nurses and, some of the differences between the way private aviation medical services have traditionally been done. Some of our brokers that are breaking tradition with, providing tools, that consumers can use directly and things like that, and being an advisor as opposed to the source of all information. Um, Taking on some of the sillier institutions in the aviation industry, people that are a little bit more daring are getting a little bit better results in LinkedIn. Actually, dramatically better results. I shouldn't say a little bit because those are the ones that really are the standouts. And Suresh, I can't remember, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. He's with MROs Plus. He does some really great thought leadership in terms of, technicians need to be paid more, that tradition needs to be respected, or that profession needs to be respected more. Annie's stuff, on women in aviation. There's a lot of people that are known for a contrarian position, and it works really, really well. Not just in politics, but also in marketing. So having a strong point of view or a willingness to disagree with industry norms. We can't make our clients do this, and we shouldn't. But when they do, we can help them. We can help them frame those in ways that are not going to get them in too much trouble, but keep them right on the edge of being super professional, being the adult in the room, all of those things. We don't want to fall into some of the spirals of um, negativity that can fall into. So there's a little bit of a risk there, but with no risk, there's no reward, especially in marketing.
Well, there's I don't know about this whole strong opinion thing. I don't have any strong opinions, I'm just in the middle.
You've never had a strong opinion in your life. Right.
It is interesting to see the strong opinions. There was somebody yesterday who, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, he was basically making a very strong post ripping Trump for pulling out of some sustainability
Mhm.
initiatives. And it's like, okay, well, make your point about sustainability, but now you have two bones to pick.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, whether you like Trump or not, that's fine. He's going to do things that you like. He's going to do things you don't like. I
Yeah.
mean, no political official is ever going to be exactly aligned with your particular views. So
Mhm.
that's to be expected.
Mhm.
But make your sustainability point. The fact that you're bringing both of them in is picking a pretty big fight.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I know where this person stands on both of these issues. So
Mhm.
mm, i- some of the things when people make a strong point of view, um, you know, basically th- it can impact how other people interact with them or choose not to interact with them.
Right.
You do need to be careful about how strong and there's the CEO of a particular helicopter company, and he's very opinionated, and
Yeah.
that's great. But at some point, it's kind of like, okay, I'm not going to get involved in this discussion.
Mhm.
It's getting a little too heated.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's appropriate to poke the bear, and other times it's like, yeah, but you don't want to come up to the bear with a baseball bat.
Mm.
Exactly.
I also think it's really important to pick the right villain. And, we really, really encourage people to not pick a person or a company as your villain because, that's unnecessarily polarizing or, it gets you the bad parts of being contrarian without the good parts of being a contrarian. Because a person is somebody's kid, I mean, it's somebody's baby. There are people that love this person, and it's just never appropriate to make a person the villain, but you can make a fact or a factor or
Or
uh,
even the thought.
a thought, yeah, a concept, the villain much more safely, like sustainability. You can say, okay, we can make the tradition of petroleum-based propulsion our villain, or we could make the waste the villain, would probably even be a better one.
Yeah, and that's what we do with sustainability.
Yeah,
We're saying we believe sustainability starts with efficient aircraft.
yeah.
Use less energy regardless of what type of energy you choose to use,
Mhm,
whether it's hydrogen, battery electric, hybrid electric, petroleum,
mm,
ammonia, ethanol, whatever it is. If you start with a more efficient aircraft, you will be more sustainable and use less energy.
exactly.
But if you focus on a person's sustainability policy,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, that's very different.
Right, you're just pitting yourself against, a human, and you're going to turn on a lot of hackles and, dig in a lot of heels that don't need to be that you don't need.
Yeah,
So, yeah, pick the right villain and, also just if we can make sure that we're advising people to be the adults in the room, never, never, never sink to the level of personal attacks or, any of those other things that we were taught in kindergarten. We wanna be civilized human beings, and, you can be very opinionated and still be decent. So that's, important. Alright, and then again, a lot of these are still, the I would say 2024, 2025, the Steve Ursano style, personal videos and things like that made a huge impact. Now they're everywhere. Everybody's doing it because it worked. So we need to be on the watch for the next big trend or the next big way of presenting this data. And we're still doing the short videos because they're still working. The algorithms are still favoring that. LinkedIn even put a button on their mobile app for video, so, they're still favoring those short videos, so I think we still wanna do that as much as we possibly can. But yeah, being good people and using good data doesn't excuse us from having strong opinions and being, human. All right. Last one is case studies and testimonials. So, and these I would love to see us do more of. We did these for some really good ones for app props and for some other clients where we interviewed there, and these are hugely labor intensive to do because we have to do an interview, we have to edit the video, we have to frame the discussion, we have to make sure that it fits into all of the right factors and everything else. So we would like to, especially for our higher tier clients, we'd love to do as many of these as we can and focus some of their office hours and their project hours on case studies and testimonials, whether we're talking to them, whether we're talking to their clients. Clients is even better. If they've got somebody that's a happy customer, we get that person in front of a camera if we possibly can, and get them to say the nice things we want them to say about their client, because that is worth more than anything that we can say or anything that our client can say about themselves. We can also do buyer decision articles. These are some of the factors that should go into making a decision about X, Y, or Z. And those would be the more long form content. So, Ying, your copywriting is going to come into into more play this year, of course. And I think that's going to be a great way to use some of that. So, a lot of the generic things, the about us pages and other things like that, we should be filling those with facts and figures, with buyer decision factors. Here are some of the things you should be looking at. We like to do this as like a shopping list of here are the things you should look for when you're looking for an aviation marketing company, or here are the things that you should be looking for if you're considering regional air mobility in the future. Um, if you are defining the objectives, these are the things, because most people don't shop for these kinds of things every day. They have no idea what even the options are. So if you tell them, you should be looking for somebody with experience, somebody with this, somebody with that, that really kind of frames the discussion in our favor. And that works really well for this bottom end of the sales cycle. Approaches, holding patterns in sales. So this has been the weak spot, right? For most of our clients is this holding pattern. And this is a great way to put some powerful uh, gas in the tank right when they're running out of fuel. So, you've made an approach, you've done a good sales presentation, you've got a client that's, very close, or a prospect that's very close to making a deal, but they just need to be convinced, or they need to convince their board, or they need to convince their boss, or whatever. Um, these testimonial videos and buyer decision articles and these kinds of things are case studies, especially. Those three things are really, really good for shoring up this part of the process. All right. So
Give
that's,
you an idea. Cool.
yeah, that is pretty much what I had. I'm going to go back to the table and just kind of turn it over to the room. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I'd love to hear from you guys. You've been um, doing marketing, or uh, having marketing done on your behalf, or doing it yourself for a year. So, you can, what has been your experience this year as far as what happened and what you plan to do differently? And we can start, or anything that you want to talk about. John, we'll start with you since you are my favorite victim.
What I'm going to do with marketing this year is I'm not.
Okay.
That's up to you.
Able to do that.
I,
So
look,
factors that you think, or, things that you've seen in marketing as a target consumer.
yeah, well, it's things that I have seen that I know work because, well, they worked on me and not very much does. And, I mean, I still go back to when I bought the first and second airplane. The first one was just amazing because I was just thinking about it, and I must have talked to somebody, I don't know who, but somebody in the area sent me a postcard who said something about buying an airplane. Actually put it on the refrigerator, don't want to call a guy.
Hmm.
And then weeks went by and life got in the way, and then I lost the card.
I think your wife threw it away.
Well, whatever. I got another one, and I lost that one. And the third one, I said, "Damn it!" And I called the guy, and then fait accompli. I mean, we bought an airplane, but you has. I don't know if email would have worked on me,
Okay.
but the time different from everybody else, so who knows?
Right. But the consistent contact, the consistent holding pattern is what.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
consistent. Yeah, I mean, the guy probably didn't know what he was doing, or maybe he did, but it worked.
Mhm.
And it was, and it wasn't like a card a month, a week or a day. I think it was probably a month apart, but I'm guessing because I don't recall a long time ago. And
Yeah.
he didn't even change the card very much, if at all.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is the, consistent contact, but also multimedia, because not every media is going to work on every person. So that's why we have to think in terms of systems, think in terms of engines, think in terms of multimedia campaigns. So, when somebody wants to do something, we never use just one tool to accomplish that objective because you're going to miss a lot of folks that don't open email or, that are have a particular um, eh, proclivity toward one medium or another.
Yep.
And also, I think it just adds to the credibility. If you're in more than one media, you're not just on the internet. You are also showing up in somebody's mailbox or showing up at an event. That really puts somebody in 3 dimensions. All right. So, anything to add, John?
No,
And then
that's
we'll go.
probably damage already. So
All right. We will just kind of go in order of appearance if that works. So, Angel, and then Adila, then Michael, then, or actually, I don't remember who was next. Ying probably, and then Michael.
Yeah, I'm always the laggard.
Oh, well, we changed the link on you, so it's not your fault.
No, you're fine.
All right, Angel.
Last year, we really focused on creating videos, and that's how I also know how to edit videos because we noticed that videos capture attention and it explain ideas really quickly. So hopefully in 2026, y- while using the right channels together for what has mentioned during this workshop, the email for follow-ups or any clarity, and LinkedIn for visibility and trust, and hopefully the case studies and testimonials for proof. And I believe when they support each other, uh, they will be much more effective than using one tool alone. So hopefully, in 2026, with these right tools, we can gain more sales or more clients in the future.
Agreed. And I think the quality of our videos has really gone up this year, partly because of the amount of time that you spent, doing this and learning this, and they're really, really looking fantastic. And also the tools are better now than they were a year ago. So that's been a big deal. Thank you. Adila.
Yeah. So basically, in 2025, as a marketer and as a content creator, I have felt that AI and the tools have really upgraded and with more features, and they have really helped us with what we were doing, obviously. So that's the change. So like that's the thing that I observed, because in I think so ChatGPT and these AI tools came around 2022, 2020, 2023 and 2024, but they were not that advanced. But in 2025 they really changed the game, and they gave really good results, obviously depending upon the prompts we were giving to them. And then just like for videos, we were using Opus Clip, and it actually helped us a lot with the editing and everything. And I think because of these tools, we were able to generate the obviously skills as well. But because of these tools, we were able to generate so many videos in shorter time, and obviously for us and the clients. And we also created videos for DBT. So and they were good, and the results were good. So that's what worked in 2025. And I think in 2026 videos will still work, because it has now become a norm. But it really depends how people now create them. If it's more AI, or just the same stuff, then I don't think so it's gonna work, unless or until it has that personal touch, and the personal expertise of the company owner, or anybody that is on that position to explain the topic. So I think that's going to work really well. Because I was noticing that on Instagram and LinkedIn, and when you are uploading a video, they ask if this video has some AI involved, or is it created with AI.
Yeah.
So social media platforms are also considering the AI. So they are um promoting the original content, or the personal content, or the content that is actually created by a real person more. So I think that's what be more appreciated, and gonna work in 2026, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of slop makes quality really stand out. So, in a way, that works in our favor, right? Excellent. Good points. And yeah, I think that's made a big difference this year. And if we combine two or more of these things, like do a really great video that has a strong opinion and you put it on LinkedIn, you're combining three or more of these factors and, doing something that you can use in more than one way. So that's another way to maximize our clients' investment, by doing something that can be used in multiple ways and is going to succeed for more than one reason.
Yes, just like the testimonials. If the testimonials were uh just written in
Mm,
2025, I don't think so they have made that much impact. But the testimonials were in the form of video, so it made it, um you can say, more genuine, etc. So I think so
mhm.
that's how
Right.
2026 would be.
Yeah, and that also, we can take, like, people's Google reviews as testimonials and make a video out of them. So we basically take something that is already credible and useful and just draw attention to it with another medium as well. So, no, excellent, excellent ideas. Ying, what do you think?
Yeah, so one big thing I learned last year, since I'm still new, is how different each aviation niche really is. So, even though it's all aviation, the messaging, for instance, for MROs, brokers, flight schools, or other aviation businesses is completely different. So each group has its own priorities, language, especially buying mindset. So marketing really has to be tailored, instead of using like a one size fits all approach.
Mhm,
And this year, aside from that, I want to spend more time deepening my understanding of the aviation businesses with the terminology and priorities. I can also maybe help with Adila with a bit of email marketing, since I agree that email is a very important marketing effort that we can do for our clients. And in my previous jobs, I have also done a bunch of different marketing email campaigns. And although I didn't use Mailchimp, I used a different CRM tool back then. It was called HubSpot.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe
Mhm.
Yeah. I believe the core principles of email campaigns still carry over. So maybe I can assist to the dealer with campaign structure, segmentation, and also messaging.
Fantastic. Great. Well, we're really happy that you're with us because we're going to need all of that this year. So that's very, very cool. Michael, bring us home. Biggest things that happened in 2025 and things that you want to do more of in 2026, maybe? I think we're muted. Oh, there we go. Nope, still muted.
I'm not a very good mime, but I was trying.
Right, you're so articulate that sometimes we can understand you even if we can't hear you, so
I read lips. Um, I'm not sure from a marketing standpoint what was the biggest thing in 25. We certainly pushed more on particularly LinkedIn,
Mm.
and I think the message is resonating. We are getting a lot more traction, a lot more people are starting to get interested. I think it's interesting looking since that slide has been sitting there and I've been staring at it, that media buys is very low on the list,
Mhm.
which is really too bad
It is.
because there's, I miss media,
Yeah,
the paper media and other things like that, magazines. Well, even if it's digital, but it's a media buy. So it's interesting that is, again, the things that are the most expensive and tier one trade shows are pretty expensive.
yeah,
Uh, but it's left blank there. But the things that are most expensive are the things that, may or may not have a high return.
yeah,
And a tier one trade show can have a pretty low return.
right.
Um, but sometimes you can really hit it well. So I think 25 we made some marketing progress. We're learning. For 26, um, we just finished up some analysis of our regional aircraft compared to the current crop of regional aircraft. And it would be really fun to do a case study. Not sure
Mm,
we get a testimonial out of it because we don't have a craft flying yet, but to really do a case study and do the comparison um, could be really interesting.
yeah,
But anyways, yeah, I think more of the same, accelerate, and the the comments earlier about email and scrubbing lists with AI. I think that's really the key is finding the tools that provide the leverage so that you can maintain a low cost
mhm.
because email by itself can be pretty high personal cost in terms of time.
Yeah, true.
Um, the trick is having those tools to make things automated, and even then, a Mailchimp campaign is nice, but most people understand they're getting an email
A
blast.
MailChimp campaign, right?
Yeah, and
That is true.
so personalizing it still is a high leverage. Well, no, a uh, high cost
Cost,
activity with
right.
low leverage
Yeah,
because you need to personalize it.
yeah.
But that has, the ROI goes up the more it's personalized,
Mhm,
and yet it has a higher cost
mhm.
personalized, but you get a better return. So there's some kind of a scale, and finding the right balance is key.
Right, and using the automation to bring the cost of personalization down, is kind of, I guess, the main thing that we're talking about here. And again, I mean, it can be super high cost to create an email journey or something like that. It can take days to get that right and get it tested and get it perfect and all of those things. But then you can run it forever. So, it's a evergreen investment if you do it correctly, in some cases. So I guess a lot of these, and the reason I took the cost out of trade shows is because there's more than one way to do a trade show. If you are exhibiting, obviously the cost is super high. There are some ways that some of our clients cheated last year by basically being in the same city as a trade show and scheduling appointments at a nearby location and basically hijacking or pirating the trade show. And I think we're going to be encouraging more of that, depending on the circumstance, just because the exhibition costs are so much higher. They're like 30% more than previous years, and in a lot of cases. So it's still high cost. I mean, you still have to travel, you still have to be there, you still have to have a room, you still have to have a place to bring people, you still have to have a lot of things, but it can be less high cost than it has been in the past. So, there's different variations of each of these that are, that affect the cost and the ROI. So this is a simplification and obviously therefore wrong in 1,000 ways. But, in order to have a conversation that's useful and doesn't go everywhere, we need to make a few generalizations. So, yeah, well, thank you guys so much for your contributions in 2025 and for being a client, Michael, and for being team members, everybody else. And it's been, I think, one of the biggest years that we've seen in terms of the amount of change in both the industry and in technology and in, the demographics and the way that things are done, partly instigated by the technology as well. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to an amazing 2026. It's going to be not boring. And the marketing is never boring. That's like the primary sin of marketing is to be boring. But that is something that I think is going to be a big deal in the future. Adila.
Can you go to that slide again?
Yeah. Same slide, different day.
Yeah. So, adding on to the Michael point about the display and media buys, so it just came across my mind. So, in is I think so. It is changing because with media buys, we are buying the audience of the magazines or people who already magazines that already have an audience we want to target. So, do you think that now in 2025 and 2026 this is being replaced or being by the influencer marketing because that is also same and with maybe the same cost we can get more return on investment if we do like in influencer marketing.
That is an interesting question. And for business to business and aviation, it has not been done as much as in other industries, but it is certainly worth looking into. Um, I was a journalism major in college, so I am deeply, deeply offended every time a publication goes out of business. I think that's just the decay of Western society when newspapers and not to get too dramatic, but newspapers and magazines are like my favorite things on earth. That was my goal when I was 10 years old, is to be a magazine publisher. So I am deeply wounded to see that at the bottom of the list because that's a whole economy that I think supports a lot of really good things. And influencer marketing, I kind of resist because of my generation, and because it's replacing something that I love so much. Without the depth and without the history and without the, uh, I guess the social good, that comes from publications and magazines and things like that. So I agree with you, but I don't want to. How's that for an answer?
It's interesting.
Mhm.
I'll make a comment on trade journals.
Yeah.
There, yeah, I think it's really hard, or maybe people haven't figured it out yet, how to maintain an actual print magazine, print journal. Some people have figured it out. There are some print things that I still subscribe to
Yeah.
because the content is excellent, and I want to make sure that I have it in my hand so that I can read at any time. I really don't like reading on a device because I like to make notes in the margin, highlight things, tear out a page, whatever.
Mhm.
And I can't do that on an electronic device.
Mhm.
Um, but something most of the journals I'm getting rid of because the content is lame.
Mhm.
So if the content's lame, why would I keep paying for it? And then, then the people who are advertising, can't reach me. So I think it's up to the people who are doing the journal, the magazine, to make sure the content is there. I used to get 4, 5, 6 different aviation magazines, and I'm down to one only because I'm waiting for my subscription to run out. The content, I just don't think is there anymore. The value isn't there. The price has gone up and the content, I think, has degraded. And as a result, there's just not a value there. They need to get the value up so that people are willing to pay for it and maintain it.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you.
Yeah. We're kind of going into the time for group office hours, so you're welcome to continue the conversation. We're going to, I think Ben was in the waiting room. We're going to let him in.
So
I'll see you guys later.
Start the next one, or you're just going to clip it out?
We'll just clip it out. Yeah, we'll just edit. We can do this with technology so that we don't have to kick everybody out and make us come back in. And he disappeared from the waiting room while I was...
Give me something to do, so instead of just sit with my butt planted.
You can take a break if you like, or yeah, we can just start right in. But
Season.
Yeah, I totally agree that periodicals and newspapers and everything else have cut costs because their revenues have gone down. And as they're cutting costs, they have like 5 reporters whose job it is now to massage the AI content to make it more acceptable. And they're not doing a very good job. So, the quality's gone, it's a spiral. The quality goes down, the advertisers go away, the quality goes down, the advertisers go away.